When we see a magician do a trick, we know they didn't do magic. We know they had something up their sleeve, but we want to believe it's magic because that makes the world seem more interesting. With narcissists, we want to believe in the magic. We want to believe that this charismatic person is real, that someone this larger than life is larger than life. It's self-loathing. This is a disorder of self-loathing. All that inadequacy and ugly insecurity, they're miserable. Miserable. Let's view narcissism as almost like this inner core, okay? And the inner core of narcissism is this variable empathy, usually a lack of empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, validation seeking, a sense of envy for other people or the assumption that other people envy them, the inability to regulate their anger when they're frustrated, a sense of shame. So if anyone points out a flaw in them, they tend to react with rage, a reactive sensitivity to criticism. So if anyone points out anything, they come at them, blame shifting and responsibility shifting. So they blame other people for what is actually their responsibility. They're very controlling, very egocentric. Everything is about them. Everything is self-serving.
Insecure.
Very deeply insecure, lots of feelings of inadequacy, but those are all sort of pushed down. All of these things I'm talking about, the entitlement and all the rest of it, it's like a suit of armor that protects that inner core of inadequacy so nobody ever sees it. If I'm walking around telling you I'm all that, well, then I can't be inadequate, right? And if I got a big fancy car and a big fancy house and a big fancy person on my arm, then I'm all that, right? So with narcissism, we have to talk about sort of the top of the line behaviors. And those are presentations: charm, charisma, confidence, curiosity. When you can find an empathic, charismatic person, behold them. They are the unicorns of the human being. There's also comfort. They'll often feel like they're rescuers. I can take care of it all. They'll be very generous.
Up front, right?
It's all a front game. Either you miss the lack of empathy and the anger and the rage and all the other stuff, or you justify it. She's really stressed, or she doesn't mean that, or that's just their culture. The classical narcissist, the sort of 57 Chevy of narcissism, is the grandiose narcissist. It is the big, charming, confident, I'm the one, I'm the best, no insight, very little empathy. But then when we talk about the malignant narcissist, again, we have all that stuff, lack of empathy and all that other stuff, but they are more menacing, they are more controlling, they're a little bit more scary, they're sadistic, they're paranoid. We're seeing people who are often, they're more likely to be aggressive, to be violent, to be abusive, to isolate people from ever being able to get help, from being abusive in the workplace. We hear these big, awful workplace abuse stories, especially a lot in the Me Too era. A lot of those folks are malignant narcissists.
Right. When you know the person isn't a narcissist, how long does that take to find out?
About the same amount of time it takes to discover that they are, in the sense that the difference is narcissists actually, there's red flags. I call these green flags. Green flags mean go. And green flags are things like watch how the person behaves under conditions of stress. So let's say that you're running late to the airport. Great, that's a great example of a stress, right? How are they acting? And are they, they're saying, oh, I'm a little worried about this, but we're gonna make it work, and listen, what's the worst that's gonna happen? We'll get rebooked. And they're calm and listen, I'm just glad to be here with you. We'll figure it out. A narcissist, when they're running late to the airport, oh no. Chaos, stress, accusations, this is your fault, entitlement. Gosh. Let me speak to the manager, get me on that plane, get that plane back to the gate.
Oh my God.
That's the narcissist, right? Whereas with with somebody, you watch them. And it doesn't have to be something as dramatic as the airport. It could be even something like, hey, I noticed you've been working late. How about I make some dinner? So it's the noticing, it's the presence, it's the mindfulness, it's the willingness to be flexible and make compromise when it's needed, to meet you halfway, to listen to you, and more than anything is to also see the growth potential in you. So not to be threatened by your own success. So if you go up to this person and you're like, hey, you know what, I got this totally cool new opportunity, and the healthy person says, that is amazing, you have worked your whole life, I saw this in you. Whereas everybody else, and not just narcissists, but insecure people will say, oh, I guess that's just going to mean more time away, and you're going to be traveling a lot. There's going to be a lot of women on the road, and you're like, oh my gosh, they just got the job of their dreams. There's something called the Michelangelo phenomenon. One person in the relationship sees the absolute potential in the other in such a way that they say, what do we need to do to get you to your dream? Like, should we take a second on the house? Should we cut back? Should we move closer in? Like, because I see, or you know what could be as simple as they eat a cake that their partner made and said, okay, this is the best cake I've ever had. Have you ever thought of making this into a business? Or a partner of yours might have said, you ask the most amazing questions. You need a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, it's seeing that something bigger in the person.
That's a good thing. That's
the Michelangelo phenomenon. That's everything.
That's a good thing.
It's the best thing. And very few relationships get that. Because what you've got to do is that person who's saying, go be your best you, is secure enough to say, I'm not going to lose you.
Right.
Like, I see all the good in you. And I want the best for you, and I believe in you, and I'm here with you. And that might even mean the person encouraging you might have to make sacrifice. Things like, I know that you're going to have to go take this course for 6 months, and I may not see you, and that's okay, because this is our future together. And with a narcissistic relationship, it's really the them show. Like, everyone is just sort of in the audience, watching them and celebrating them. They can be the only great one in a relationship.
What's the biggest misconceptions about a narcissist then?
That they love themselves. It's self-loathing. This is a disorder of self-loathing. All that inadequacy and ugly insecurity, they hate themselves. Really? They're miserable. Miserable. It's awful. I actually say that the compassion we can find in ourselves is, people are like, I want to get revenge on them. I say, you don't have to. They have to keep being them. Imagine every day you're comparing yourself to everyone. You're thinking, they have that and they have that. How come I don't have this? And how come this? And they're constantly anxious. They're constantly angry. They constantly feel like a victim. It's a very... uncomfortable way to live, because they always feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. And so when they're coming at you, and if you can remember, you really are keeping it tight. It's a lot of it's like you're in a deposition. Yes, no, okay, sounds good, sure. Narcissists don't like that. They're going to bait you. And when they bait you, they don't play.
They go for
everything that's going to
make something else, start making stuff up.
They start making stuff up. And so then at some people take that bait, and then the narcissist is like, game on. Because when you're fighting, they're fighters. That's what they do. In fact, there was a great research study came out from Ohio State University. Over 450 studies they examined and found really strong effects that narcissism is consistently associated with aggression. There's nothing soft about this. This is about aggression. They want the fight. Every relationship with a narcissist is a threesome. You just don't know it, because they always need that third person in the relationship. It's often them creating the jealousy, or they be incredibly jealous of their partners.
Oh,
there's a difference between jealousy
of
and pathological jealousy.
There's
two different things. Okay, so jealousy is normal.
Yes.
We're a pair bonded species. We human beings. We tend to be monogamous. All right. So jealousy is a threat. If I'm in a relationship and a threat comes in, right? Normal jealousy is that sort of evolutionary jealousy, right? I'm with a person. If somebody comes in as a threat to that relationship, I've lost the resources and support for our offspring.
Pathological jealousy.
Pathological jealousy, though, that starts getting into the realm of things like paranoia and
oh my gosh,
and negative mood states and all that. Like, jealousy doesn't feel good, but I always, when I've worked with couples, they're like, I'm jealous. I'm like, that's good. That means you still got skin in the game. Like, because when I've been with people, worked with couples, or worked with individuals, and they'll say, I'm not even jealous when people notice my husband. I kind of feel. that. When we see a magician do a trick, we know they didn't do magic. We know they had something up their sleeve, but we want to believe it's magic because that makes the world seem more interesting. With narcissists, we want to believe in the magic. We want to believe that this charismatic person is real, that someone this larger than life is larger than life, rather than an ordinary person who just has ordinary things and could fall, and we want superheroes. That's why we've always written myths as a species. But the myths should remain stories, not the person who's trying to scream at you from the other cubicle. If someone else is cruel to you, it's not your fault. You came into this world lovable and will always be lovable. Trust and honor your truth, and don't let anyone ever take it away from you.